But we start with a shocking development in the death of former Congresswoman Eddie Bernice Johnson. Her family now planning to sue a major hospital network for medical negligence.
They claim Johnson was left alone in a rehab facility, which caused a severe infection and led to her death months later on New Year's Eve.
We just heard from Johnson's son for the first time, and Matt Howerton has more from our newsroom.
Chris, Izzy, these allegations, they add a horrible taste to the bookend of the former Congresswoman's life and career. And it all started with the lumbar spinal surgery in September of last year. Johnson, she started serving in Congress in 1992 and retired 15 terms later. She died on New Year's Eve in hospice care at the age of 89. That surgery in September, per a family attorney, was to stabilize her spine, quite invasive, from her L2 to her L5, meaning the incision would be rather long. Johnson's family says her surgery at Medical City Heart and Spine went great. She was up walking days later, but when she was transferred to a Baylor Scott & White Health rehab facility to work on recovery, things then went downhill. Her son said he found Johnson in bed, needing care, asking for care, lying in her own feces and urine, and as a result, that incision wound, as we mentioned, per the family's attorney, became infected, and she had to be placed in intensive care then at Medical City, where surgery was performed again to clean that wound. But the family says Johnson never recovered. She was transferred to a nursing facility and then hospice, where she passed. Johnson was a nurse before serving Congress, a sad fact since these allegations surround negligence in a medical facility. The family's attorney even played a voicemail from a case manager saying they were sorry about what happened.
And she went and found some of the nurses and came back and told me that they were in training and that they would be out shortly. It was at that point I said, I need to speak with someone else.
Yeah, some serious allegations there, and some evidence even offered to the press from Johnson's family today, including tests after her infection showing that traces of feces and bile were found in the wound. Also, her death certificate, too, which indicates she died of osteomyelitis of the spine, a serious infection of the bone there. Baylor Scott & White sent us the following statement. Congresswoman Johnson was a longtime friend and champion in the communities that we serve, and she is an inspiration to all. We're committed to working directly with the Congresswoman's family members and their counsel. Out of respect for the patient privacy, though, we must limit our comments. I'll send it back to you guys in the studio.
All right, thank you very much, Matt. All right, to get some more context on the rehab facility, let's bring in our investigative correspondent, Tanya Heiser.
Yeah, Tanya, from watching this press conference, it looked as if the family was really trying to make a call for accountability here.
That's right, Cynthia and Chris. They certainly were. The family wants the rehabilitation center held accountable for that infection that they say led to the former Congresswoman's death. And they, of course, believe that they have the evidence to prove it. That rehab facility is Baylor Scott & White Institute for Rehabilitation on Washington Avenue in Dallas. Now, it's operated by Select Medical Rehabilitation Services, and records show they are an accredited healthcare facility. Johnson's family will, however, find it difficult to find accountability under the state's medical malpractice laws, which the state legislature passed back in 2003. That law makes it incredibly difficult for families to collect, and as her attorney noted, it sets a $250,000 cap on the hospital plus past medical bills. And even if you go to court and win an award for punitive damages, there are caps too. Now, here's her attorney.
The law is the law. It's a terrible law. This is an illustration of how unfair that law is, that a person like Eddie Bernice Johnson, who dedicated her life to service of others and was really an American hero, there's a cap at $250,000.
Now, her attorney says they sent a notification of their intent to sue today. And there's also a 60-day waiting period where the family and the hospital will be trying to settle this before a lawsuit gets filed. It's also important to note that since Johnson died under the care of hospice, the medical examiner did not perform an autopsy. And the family also says they didn't do a private autopsy because they believe they have all the evidence that they need.
I'll tell you, it's not physically, possible for family members to be present at all times. How can we make sure something like this doesn't happen to our loved ones?
The unfortunate reality, Chris, is that when you have a family member in rehab, you do need to be present. So if you can't be present at all times, you need to coordinate with family and friends because someone needs to be there. And that's what a medical malpractice attorney told me today. Someone needs to be there to hold vigil.
Absolutely. Couldn't agree more. Our thanks to you, Tanya Iser. And tonight we are getting new reaction from lawmakers here in North Texas, including U.S. Representative Jasmine Crockett, who succeeded Eddie Bernice Johnson in Congress. Crockett says she knew of Johnson's condition before her death. She calls the circumstances astounding, considering the former Congresswoman was a nurse.
She had really been a champion of everything around healthcare and science, to kind of end up losing your life, you know, when you dedicated so much specifically in this realm, is really a tragic, very, very tragic ending to her life.
Johnson was the first registered nurse to serve in Congress. She retired last year after nearly 30 years of representing the people of the 30th Congressional District, which includes areas of South Dallas, DeSoto, Lancaster, and Cedar Hill. Remembrance ceremonies start on Monday with a public viewing at the Hall of State in Fair Park. We will have much more team coverage on the death of former Congresswoman Eddie Bernice Johnson and reaction to the family's intent to sue ahead on News 8 at 6.